What is good, YouTube? It's your boy Dio for President back again with another video for you guys. And today we are reacting to why most people are out of shape after high school. I'm not going to lie, I have been cutting weight right now and I have been watching a lot of this guy's videos. If you want motivation to lose weight, go watch this guy, this guy right here. Like, I can't pronounce his name, but then go watch this guy. His content is 10 out of 10. But anyways, you guys, let's get into the video.
This video is extremely relevant because, you know, when I go back to my hometown, I always see someone I knew from high school, or something like that. And obviously we got Facebook where I'm looking at people in high school and they're asking me questions or whatever, and they're like, dude, like, how do you get lean? Because, there's always those dudes that in high school, they was lean, there was the shit, you know what I mean? They had their physique together, whatever. And then after high school, they get super fat. And here's what a lot of people don't realize. We didn't use step trackers in high school. Obviously, we didn't pay attention to our step count on the phone.
Real.
Right? If you went to high school in the past couple of years, I want you to go back and look at your step count. Right? It's probably high as shit. Because realistically, you walk to lunch, right? And then, yeah, realistically, you walk to lunch.
In high school, you're walking everywhere. In high school and university, you are walking everywhere. Particularly high school. Mind you, you're walking to lunch, you're walking to your next class. At recess, chances are you're walking. You have PE, and if you're part of a sports team, then you're training with the sports team. So there's no way in hell that you're going to be fat. But then people really underestimate the fact that they don't move after high school. In university, okay, like, you're going to move around, but in university, chances are you are drinking alcohol, so that's killing your gains already. But then in high school, you are moving every single day, and chances are, depending on where you come from, you might be in a deficit. If you can't afford to eat. Unfortunately, that is the case. That is just life. But then, even if you're eating like at maintenance or in a surplus, like, no, if you're eating in a surplus, you're still going to gain weight. But at the same time, you are literally burning fat every single day. When you become an adult, chances are you're just sitting down. You have to be intentional about moving your body.
You walk to every class, you're getting a lot of steps. And in high school, I remember walking everywhere, right? And then if you play sports, not only are you walking everywhere during the day, but you got to walk to the football locker room, and then you got to run
Exact same thing I just said.
around. If you're doing track, you're running consistently. You have a high expenditure all day long, and during that time that you're walking and you're going to football practice, you're not eating, obviously. So generally, even if you eat a big meal at night, like for example, my older brother, when he was super aesthetic, his diet was crazy, right? Like in the morning, he'd have like a fucking bagel or some shit, right, for breakfast, and then he would eat whatever breakfast they had at the school. But then he'd be walking all day, walking to classes, then walk to the football locker room, then go hard at football practice for like 3 hours.
Bro, people also don't even have like an idea of how many calories that they're consuming. Once you actually, like, bro, people fear everything. People fear everything. But the one thing that they fear the most is counting how many calories that they're consuming. Once you actually sit down and count how many calories that you're putting into your body, you're going to realize that, yo, I'm eating for a small family of fucking 6 people. It's crazy.
Then lift weights at the football.
6 people is a big family, I take that back. But like, like, they're eating for a small family of maybe like 3 or 4, in one day. If people sat down and they actually tracked everything, they would realize that, yo, I'm actually eating a shit ton of food right now, calorie wise. You feel me? Like a bag of chips compared to like a watermelon or grapes or something. The calories in a bag of chips versus something like grapes, fruits, is insane. But people don't want to, take their time and like discipline themselves, and not even discipline. People don't even just want to take their time and be like, yo, what am I putting into my body?
Practice. Then I remember after practice, our dad would take us to goofy ass McDonald's, Shout out to McDonald's. And my brother would get, literally, I'm not even kidding, he would get four McChickens, right? Sometimes a Big Mac too, at least 2 large fries, and then he'd get some grilled chicken snack wraps. And then, whatever was at home, he'd probably eat some rice and chicken as well. Now, that sounds like a lot to most people, but his calorie expenditure was like 6,000 calories, right? Because of how hard he ran in practice. And his step count was probably like 20K before practice, you know what I mean? Just from school. So a lot of people do not realize the same thing with college. College campuses, you walk a lot, but a lot of people don't realize that once you grow up and you're sedentary, you're doing a work from home job, you're not playing team sports, you don't get a lot of movement. All right, so let's get right.
Remember all those guys that you saw in high school that were the fit, jocks, athletic, naturally, genetically gifted, jacked, usually lean, had abs? And then 2, 3, 4 years out of high school, you see them on their Facebook profile. They have 3 kids and a beer belly, and they're one cheeseburger away from a heart attack. The reason isn't because their metabolism slowed down. Let's use some common sense here. 4 years' time is not enough to slow down your metabolism. What were these guys doing in high school? They were active, they were moving, they were playing sports all the time. And they probably ate the meals that their parents cooked, so they weren't eating that shit, for the most part. Pair that with a shit diet, beers every night, and then not moving.
That's literally university and adulthood, bro. Like, once you get into uni, the drinking culture in most universities and colleges is insane. St. Patrick's weekend is coming up. It's this weekend, bro, and people are going to people are going to drink alcohol, eat a shit ton of food, and on one hand, it's fun. That's the thing. Going out and doing all these things is fun, but at the same time, do not complain when, you're overweight. Don't complain when you're overweight.
You're going to gain weight. It's not your metabolism slowing down. It's that you're not in a caloric deficit. So stop blaming metabolism. Start
That simple, guys. It's literally that simple. Another thing is, a lot of people say when they go overseas, they're not gaining weight, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. Listen, when I went to Thailand, I went to Vietnam. Yes, the food is way lighter or whatever, but it's really the culture and the advertisement as well, because I personally think it's easier to be lean in America because there's more high protein fucking options. Simple. But another thing is, you just have to be more aware of your walking and your working out, because most people,
you're walking, you're working out, and how much food you're putting into your body. I feel like people don't emphasize nutrition enough, bro. Like, people are like, yeah, do this ab workouts, do this thing, and you're going to, but like, bro, people do not sit down and tell you, like, if you eat whole foods, drink more water, cut out alcohol, particularly cutting out alcohol. I can't even lie to you guys. I haven't had a sip of alcohol in 60 days, and I have lost, I don't know how many pounds I've lost, but anytime I go out, people say, oh, Dayo, you look like you lost weight. You look like you lost weight. Bro, I'm not drinking and I'm not eating bullshit McDonald's, bro.
don't lift weights, obviously. So when they go to like Italy, they're walking. So that's the most activity that their bodies get. Because after high school, most of us, right, or most regular people, all right, I'm not gonna associate myself with, but anyways, most regular people, they have a football team that they really like, they have a basketball team that they really like, so they spend their time off from work watching those teams, drinking beers. All right, they're not in a calorie deficit, obviously, and they're drinking liquor, which is horrible for fat loss. All right, that's what they're doing, and they're sitting around all day. And at work, they sit around because they commute everywhere. When they go on vacation in Italy, their stress levels are lower because they're not working. Obviously, they're probably getting better sleep. Obviously, the culture isn't as food based, right? And then they're walking everywhere. You got to walk to restaurants. It's more walkable. There's more walkability in other countries, obviously. So those are the factors that really end up changing everything. Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
When I first moved to Thailand, right,
when you live like in America and Canada and some other countries, bro, you literally like when you live in the West, you have to drive everywhere. It's so funny. I saw this one meme. It was a guy in Europe trying to talk to a girl, and he said, "Yo, I don't have a car," and the girl was like, "That's fine. It's okay." But here, you try to talk to a girl with no car, you are like you're just wasting your time. It's understandable though. Like you need to walk around to get around here.
I dropped
Sorry, you need to drive around to get around in Canada.
some So I dropped some muscle because I was walking too fucking much, you know what I mean? And doing boxing and shit. But anyways, like you gotta walk places. Like that's the most convenient thing to do over there in America. Is like first of all, if you're walking in America, people are gonna look at you like you're fucking homeless, bro. I was walking the other day. I could have drove, but I was walking the other day. Niggas was looking at me like I was homeless. I'm like, bro, I'm not homeless, bro. Chill, 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 chill. I'm just walking somewhere. You know what I mean? Because people don't walk here. It's not normal. It's not like a cultural thing. Whereas, unless you're in New York or you're like DC or some shit. Whereas in, in Thailand and Italy, all those other countries, it's like, yeah, walking is super normal. European countries, walking is normal. Cool. So you have more expenditure. So realistically, for all of you guys who are having that question, like, hey, why did that dude from high school get fat? Why did that dude from high school get fat? Because in high school, you're spending so much time socializing and working out and walking.
There was this one kid from my high school, you know, and it's crazy now, like it's crazy how time flies and like people change and all of that. Yeah, I saw him. I think it was 2 years ago. I hadn't seen him in a long time. Mind you, I graduated from high school in 2017. So I saw him in 2024 or 2023. This guy he was on the soccer team, rock hard abs, you know. He got girls, you know. He was considered one of the more attractive guys in school. I saw him and I was like, wow. He personally didn't like me. He didn't like me then, and he still doesn't like me now. So it's whatever. But then I saw him and I was like, wow, you gained a lot of weight. Of course I didn't say it to his face because we don't talk. But I saw him and I was like, wow, you fell off. You fell off. And one thing that I don't want to do, in my life is fall off. I've seen both sides. Like I will always say I've seen both sides. I know what it is to be overweight, and I know what it is to, get lean. I'm not going to say shredded, but then I know what it is, to have like a relatively good physique compared to the average person, and I see how people treat you. It is a night and day difference, like, yeah, I saw him and I was like, that's tough. That is tough. And when I see things like it just motivates me to not get like that.
If you play, let's just say you play fall sports and spring sports and winter sports in high school, that means every day till 6 p.m. you're going to be moving. Right. So, for example, you wake up at 7 a.m. for high school, which is diabolical, or 6:50, 6:30, whatever. And then you're walking around the class. You have a small lunch. The lunches in high school are small. Even if you double up on lunch, you're eating less than 1,000 calories, right? And then your breakfast over there is probably like 200 calories. You might snack in between the day. So you're under 1,800 calories, but your step count during high school is like 10K, especially with pep rallies and all that other stuff going on. Then you go and you do sports. When you go and you do sports, a lot of times they make you lift weights, which is going to build more muscle mass. But you're going to be pacing a lot. You're going to be walking a lot, walking in the locker room, shit like that. All right. Then it's 6 p.m. Right, you get home, you eat whatever your parents cook, or you can eat a pizza, you can eat fast food. Your calorie expenditure is so high that if you eat anywhere below 4,000 calories as an athlete in high school with all the steps that you're taking, you are not going to gain an ounce of fat. You're probably going to be losing fat. You see what I'm saying? So that's the state that you're in high school because your expenditure is so fucking high. Versus post high school people, they have 3 kids, they blame their kids for everything. They're like, oh my God, my kids are why I'm fat. No, the fuck they're not. But
yeah, like when people say, yeah, it's because I have kids or it's because I have work and blah, 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 it doesn't make any sense to me. When people say that those are the reasons why they can't lock in, it doesn't make sense because realistically, the biggest thing, to not be overweight, I'm not going to lie, is to change what you're eating. The discipline to change what you're eating and be more cautious of the calories that you're consuming. People do not want to do that. And me personally, when people say, oh no, I have kids, I have work, like, I just look and I'm like, Fez, okay, you just don't want, you dead ass don't want it bad enough. You dead ass just don't want it bad enough. And truth be told, like, not everybody can get lean. Not everybody wants it bad enough. But the day you wake up and you want it bad enough, that is when you are going to start doing everything in your power to make it happen.
Anyways, right, a lot of people, they sit around more. they eat more than they should in high school because they literally sit around more and all they think about is food, right? And then they drink beer, they don't work out, right? So they don't have high muscle mass. So they're losing muscle, which slows down your metabolism. They're not moving as much, which slows down your metabolism. They're not eating as much protein, which slows down your metabolism, right? And then over time, they gain fat, they gain fat, they gain fat. So it's really just a simple scientific equation that a lot of people overcomplicate. Like, I remember people telling me, like, once you get to 28, 30, man, you'll be fat, bro. Listen, I already passed that point, leaner than I ever been, because I'm just aware of what I'm doing as far as like movements and shit like that. On a daily basis, I'm like, oh shit, wow, I didn't move that much today, so I don't require that many calories. So a lot of people just don't have that discipline.
Simple. That's all. That's actually like what me personally, when I started to really like, the last 2 months, or 3 months, I really said, okay, like I'm going to lock in on my diet and everything, bro. It's calories in and calories out. There are days that I hit 20K steps, 10K steps, cool. Those days I eat my 2400 calories. But the days that I don't, I eat a little bit less, just so that like I maintain my cuts. And I personally never go above 2400 right now because, like I said, I'm cutting for the summer.
Right? They eat 3,000 calories every day, and they get 1K steps, and they haven't lifted weights in 2 years. It's that simple. All right. So if you want to lose fat, guess what? You got to be in that calorie deficit because it does come down to basic science at the end of the day. It's that simple. It's not that you're not in high school anymore, and high school is magical. Most of you guys, especially when I talk to you guys on the phone, especially if you play D1 college, baseball, basketball, football, or college sports in general, you are extremely active. You're just extremely active your whole life, and then you stop being active, and you spend more time eating. Because most times when people are less active, they spend more time eating, which is why the stupid concept of, oh my gosh, I don't have the time to diet is the dumbest shit of all time. Because those who are lean clearly eat less calories than those who aren't, right? Most of the time, which means they spend less time eating anyways. So if you don't have time to diet, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
People also don't, I'm going to end the video there, but then people don't understand that eating less calories, it means it doesn't mean eating less food. It's the type of food that you eat. People don't understand that. If you keep eating, bullshit, drinking soda, drinking alcohol, and doing all these things, you are not going to see any gains. You're not going to see any progress. But if you can cut that shit out, I promise you, you're going to see progress. But anyways, you guys, that's the video. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm coming through.